we're trying to build a heads down environment for top 1% YC grade founders that want to focus. And so we're participating a small check, 250K, and typically into $1 to $3 million rounds. So our founders aren't coming here for the money; they're coming here for everything else.
All right, this is another episode of the Form Your Own Pack podcast from Founders Pack. My guest today is Cam Doody from Brickyard. Cam, thank you so much for connecting.
Glad to be here. What's going on?
So much. Well, we actually want to find out a little bit about you and Brickyard. So for people that don't know, who is Cam and what is Brickyard?
Well, I never thought that I'd be on this side of the table. I've been an operator for the last 10 years. I started Bellhop and have been scaling that company for the better half of the last decade. And my co-founder in Bellhop is a guy named Matt Patterson. We started talking about maybe a couple of years ago what we wished that existed in the early stage venture world, and we kind of saw a shift with founders that over the last 10 years ago, if you met an early stage founder, you just felt sorry for them. I mean, they were just that neurotic type that was in a garage somewhere where they just had a big problem that they wanted to solve, and they were committed to solving it. There wasn't any celebrity to being a startup founder. It wasn't pop culture, so the purity of founders' ethos a decade ago was very different than what it is today. And today it's like, you got folks that are drawn to it because they think it's a sexier MBA, or it's a status game, or they want Forbes 30 under 30, or it's a way to build a resume. It's all these different reasons, outside of, hey, I want to build a really big company. And in a lot of ways, I think venture capital's been so easy to come by over the last 10 years that it's just made a lot of founders really soft. In collaboration with, the kind of, trend of the day as a startup founder is like you're in multi-city kind of nomadic world where you're in LA and you're in Miami sitting on a panel, and you're in New York. And, if you're pre-product market fit, you should have your head down, period, working harder than you will ever work for the rest of your life. Because, in that particular stage, you're throwing so much at the wall. You just have to get hours in. It's like you have to obsess over the problem. You have to radically focus, remove noise. And we're living in such a noisy world for founders today. So Brickyard was like this take of, all right, we're going to start our own venture firm. We self-funded our first 17 companies.
Oh, wow.
We didn't know if this was going to work or not. And, the narrative that we were selling was this kind of hardcore, focus-oriented residency where every one of our teams is required to move to Chattanooga, Tennessee for a minimum of 1 year to put their head down and grind.
Wow. Okay.
And that was like so different than,
Very different.
Right. And so we were like, we almost didn't think it was going to work. We knew it needed to exist, but we thought it was going to be an uphill battle. Turns out the best founders know in their gut, like putting your head down and focusing is the one way to de-risk, death in your company at this early stage. And so it's been like pushing a rock off a mountain. And founders do one or two things. They either, the first 2 or 3 minutes with any founder, I say, look, Brickyard is not for everybody. It's for really serious founders who are in the game because they want to build a really big company. We're all about radical focus, removing distraction, but not isolating founders from other founders that are pushing really, really hard. It's like a world-class training camp for boxers, but this is for founders where everybody here has burned the ships. They're all in, their heads down, and they're grinding towards product market fit. And founders either totally lean in and they're like, yes, this is exactly what I want, or it's threatening to their lifestyle and they kind of like, we get off the phone pretty quick. And And so, yeah, so we're a traditional venture fund. We write $250,000 checks into pre-product market fit companies, so typically pre-seed and seed. Um, and it's a minimum 1-year residency where these founders are coming from all over the world, and to come and build out of Brickyard, which is a building you can see behind, which is
Pretty
15,000
awesome.
square foot private club for our portfolio companies only. There's a private gym, locker room, steam sauna, cold plunge. We have a founder house, which is a 7,000 square foot house that has 11 bedrooms, and that's fully furnished for our teams that are coming in. And so we're trying to build a heads down environment for top 1% YC grade founders that want to focus. And so we're participating a small check, 250K, and typically into $1 to $3 million rounds. So our founders aren't coming here for the money; they're coming here for everything else. Um, and we wanted to build this bottoms up community of founders that was real. And so we actually, myself and my partners, we carved off 10% of our GP carry, and we grant it to every founder that we invest in. And
So
they vest that by spending a year in Brickyard. And so, yes, all our founders have ownership in each other. And so you're kind of in this building where everybody, it's deeply in person. These other founders, you watch them on their best days and their worst days. But at the same time, and you love each other, but at the same time, you want to dunk on each other every day. And so it's a very competitive environment. And that's what we believe matters most in the early days. The only thing that ever moved the needle for us outside of our team was other founders who were in that exact stage, who really could understand what you're going through.
I love it. You're talking about so many things that I kind of evangelize and write about. I think I mentioned to you before we jumped on that the inspiration for Founders Pack and Formula One Pack is the Keiretsu, and one of the characteristics of that is cross shareholdings, and that's one of the things we talk about. And I think you might be one of the first that have talked about that being a core value of or benefit of being part of your program. I think it's really interesting. So where do you find founders, first of all? I'm assuming as a VC, typically they're approaching you to be a part of the program?
Well, it's a mix. Half our teams have been referrals from our teams, and we want that mix to, if you go to our site, we say, look, we have a catch-all email that you can send a deck to, but if you really want to get a meeting with us, come through one of our portfolio founders. And so we want to move to the point where we don't do any deals or take any meetings from teams that aren't coming directly through one of our portfolio teams, because we're really trying to build this, bottoms up community where the founders are really the gatekeepers. And a lot of our teams are coming out of, a third of our companies are YC teams, and so they have these large networks of other top tier founders that they get to know. And our founders want only the best founders to come into Brickyard, because it's sort of like A players want A players, B players want C players, sort of thing. Our founders, if they're going to put their name on a company, they better be rock solid. And so that's always your highest signal, referrals from your teams. And but I mean, we're Twitter weirdly has been an incredible vertical for us. We look at hundreds of cold inbound pitch decks a week. But our investor buddies who are sharing deal flow, I mean, it's kind of coming from all over. But the 17 companies that we've backed 5 international companies, Malta, London, and then 3 from Canada. And then in the States, it's all the usual suspects, Bay Area, Portland, New York, New Jersey, Boston, Austin, Atlanta, San Diego. It's just all over the place.
I love it. And so what of the 17 that you've backed, what are some of the success stories that you would want to highlight?
Well, I mean, these are really early stage companies. We wrote our first check a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And so these are all really early stage companies, but
Yeah,
they're all, you know, our whole portfolio is a bunch of hitters. I mean, we
love
have
it.
some really top tier founders. Yeah.
So you've kind of, talked about what you look for in founders. Is it safe to say grit? Like, are there what's the specific thing that you would look for out of anyone that you bring into Brickyard?
Yeah, I mean, our ethos is very gritty, very focused, just radically focused, purity of intention. Like, I want to build a really big company. I'm in it for that. I'm not in it for all this other vanity stuff. Um, you know, when we look into a founder's eyes, we're founders ourselves. We look for those founders that are just killers. You know, you have to be a killer. It's almost impossible to get a company from nothing to an exit, or even from nothing to product market fit. I mean, this is, the deck's stacked against you from the get go, and we look for founders that, one, understand how hard this game is, and two, are ready to go to war for a decade, because that's really what it takes. So, yeah, incredibly diverse group of founders. We have, I think, now 5 female backed, so a third of our companies have female CEOs or founders. Um, and then from a cultural diversity standpoint, I mean, it's just all over the board. We're totally melting pot of, founders from every walk of life.
That's amazing. All right, so you kind of talked about it, but really, what has been the role of community or partnerships in the success of this so far?
I mean, the community aspect. So Brickyard is not an accelerator. There are plenty of accelerators that are good at getting a founding team to their first raise. We're not that. We are like a post-raise, pre-product market fit residency, where it's like, we've raised our first round of capital. Now it's go time. And that was always the most difficult, stage of company building, was just like, you've got the pressure of venture, but your rudder is still pretty thin. And so the community of founders building under this one roof, who have all, quote, burned the ships, they've left it behind, they've come here to do one thing, that's find product market fit. Having a bunch of other top tier founders around you every day pushing you, that community, and also like the peer component of, they own a piece of your company, you want to perform for them,
Right. Love that. That's amazing.
yeah. So it's our founder community is, that's the value of Brickyard, is the community. It's the people that are in the trenches every day when you show up. And those are the ones that are going to be talking to you at 1 or 2 in the morning, helping you think through a problem. And those are the ones that are going to be there to really kind of smack you around and say, look, you're thinking about this wrong. You need to think about, go ahead and getting that cash in the bank, not waiting till later, or whatever it might be. So,
Right.
yep.
Yeah, I think that was one of the, again, I really, I'm excited to hear what you're talking about and what you're working on, because I think it's a litmus of what I've been kind of evangelizing with Founders Pack. Because one of the other aspects that inspired me of the Japanese Keiretsu was that the fact they would send each other engineering talent. They would have their CEOs meet on Fridays with lunch club. And so there was vested stake because of the cross shareholdings to help each other. And then, really what we want to help try to build is scaffolding, in the sense of share technology, talent, data, and relationships. And I think you're living that. Like, it seems like you've got this really immersive program, and I'm excited to see what the results are at the end. But it sounds like you'll have to your point, a lot of hits on, a lot of on base, and who knows, some home runs.
Yeah, we're excited. We just closed our debut fund. After our self-funded pilot, we rolled into what we call Fund One. But anyway, that's a $17.5 million fund that may go up to 18 or 19. But we've basically stopped taking meetings for it. But that's going to be 35 or 40 new companies that are coming into Brickyard over the next 3.5 years. And so anybody that's interested, if you're leaning towards your computer screen watching this thing, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we're trying to build out the most selective, community of founders on the planet.
That's amazing. Well, we'd like to help contribute that in any way we can beyond this. If you have founders that you think would be couple things. One, I mentioned we launched Intros by Founders Pack, which is kind of like an automated every Monday introduction to other founders or investors inside of the Founders Pack network. Typically, we have a lot of Y Combinator, Techstars, Hustle Fund type people. So if you have people you'd like to nominate or suggest that they be a part of that, we'd like to invite them. And I definitely want to do an event at some point. So maybe we can send people that are really quality your way. And likewise, maybe we can participate in a pitch event in the new year. So there's a couple of things. I feel very aligned. So hopefully I'm not overstepping my bounds, but I like what you're doing. It's really awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, justlay.brick is our .com is our site. You can kind of read a little bit about us there. It's sort of ambiguous on purpose, but and then on Twitter, I'm Cam Doody, CamDoody, like howdy doody. And or my email is cam@justlay.brick.com.
Amazing. We will include all that in the show notes. So the final thing is, as you know, when we have interesting people on the Form Your Own Pack podcast, we like you to nominate other interesting people. Typically, we talk to founders or investors in scalable ventures. So who would you, Cam, like to nominate as a future guest of the podcast?
Oh gosh. Why don't we do Harsh Khurana with Cultivate?
Cultivate. So Harsh, you've been nominated as a future guest. We will accept that and we will follow up with you. Cam, thanks so much for spending time with me. I look forward to helping you any way that I can.
Totally. All right. Thanks.